The moment people discover you are raising twins, something changes. Strangers suddenly become experts. Family members start comparing your children to others. Friends question your routines, your exhaustion, your parenting style, and even your emotional limits. Society romanticizes twins as something magical and adorable, yet rarely talks about the crushing pressure parents silently carry behind closed doors. Every cry in public feels judged. Every decision feels observed. Parents of twins are expected to be endlessly patient, perfectly organized, emotionally balanced, and grateful every second of the day. But the truth is far more complicated. Beneath the matching outfits and smiling photos are sleepless nights, overwhelming expectations, and constant outside opinions that slowly drain confidence. This is the reality many parents of twins live with daily, and learning to ignore that noise may become the most important survival skill of all. Raising twins can feel like living under a spotlight that never turns off. People watch, comment, compare, criticize, and offer advice even when nobody asks for it. Some comments may sound harmless, while others quietly create guilt, insecurity, and emotional exhaustion. Parents of twins are often pressured to prove they are doing everything perfectly while trying to survive one of the most demanding experiences life can offer. The constant social pressure can make mothers and fathers question themselves every single day. But what if the secret to peace is not becoming the perfect parent, but learning to stop listening to every outside voice? In this video, we are going to explore the hidden emotional weight parents of twins carry and discover how ignoring judgment can actually create a healthier, happier family. If this story resonates with you, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share your experience with other parents who may feel exactly the same way. When parents first discover they are expecting twins, the reactions from other people begin almost immediately. Excitement quickly turns into warnings, predictions, and unsolicited advice that follows them everywhere. Friends describe horror stories about sleepless nights, while relatives begin questioning whether the parents are prepared enough for such a life-changing challenge. Even complete strangers suddenly feel invited to share opinions about finances, routines, feeding methods, and emotional readiness. The outside world often treats parents of twins as if they are entering a public experiment rather than a personal family journey. This pressure creates anxiety long before the babies are even born. Instead of feeling supported, many parents feel observed and evaluated. Society romanticizes twin pregnancies while simultaneously overwhelming parents with fear and judgment. The emotional burden grows heavier because every choice begins to feel like it must be defended. What should be a deeply personal experience slowly becomes shaped by outside expectations that invade moments meant to belong only to the family itself completely. After the twins arrive, the social pressure intensifies in ways most people never expect. Parents are suddenly surrounded by comments about sleep schedules, feeding decisions, discipline methods, and developmental milestones. Every public outing feels like entering a stage where strangers openly observe every interaction. If one baby cries while the other remains calm, people stare. If both cry simultaneously, judgment appears instantly in the eyes of others. Parents begin carrying invisible emotional armor everywhere they go because criticism can arrive at any moment. Some comments are disguised as jokes, while others are presented as concern, but many leave lasting emotional wounds. The exhaustion of caring for two infants at once already pushes parents to their physical and emotional limits. Adding constant outside opinions creates another layer of pressure that few people truly understand. Instead of receiving compassion, many parents of twins feel trapped in a world where they are expected to handle impossible challenges while still appearing calm, organized, grateful, and emotionally stable every single day. One of the most damaging forms of pressure comes from constant comparisons. Society loves comparing twins to each other and comparing parents to unrealistic standards presented online. If one twin develops faster than the other, people immediately notice. If one child speaks earlier, walks sooner, or behaves differently, outside voices begin creating unnecessary concern and competition. Parents absorb these comparisons until they start doubting themselves constantly. Social media makes this even worse because families are exposed to endless images of seemingly perfect parents raising perfectly behaved twins in spotless homes. Behind those carefully edited moments often exists exhaustion, frustration, and emotional struggle, yet audiences rarely see that reality. Parents begin believing they are failing because their lives do not resemble the polished versions they consume online. The pressure to match unrealistic expectations slowly steals joy from everyday experiences. Instead of appreciating their unique family journey, parents become distracted by measuring themselves against impossible standards created by strangers who never witnessed the real emotional complexity of raising twins behind closed doors daily. Many parents of twins quietly struggle with guilt because outside opinions convince them they are never doing enough. If they ask for help, some people call them weak. If they appear overwhelmed, others question whether they were prepared for parenthood. If they focus on self-care, society sometimes labels them selfish. This impossible balance creates emotional exhaustion that grows silently over time. Parents begin feeling guilty for being tired, frustrated, or emotionally drained even though raising twins requires extraordinary levels of energy and patience. The pressure becomes especially intense for mothers who are often expected to naturally manage everything perfectly without complaint. Fathers also face judgment when they appear emotionally vulnerable or struggle adapting to the overwhelming responsibilities of twin parenting. Society creates unrealistic expectations for both parents while rarely acknowledging the emotional survival required behind the scenes. Guilt becomes dangerous because it prevents parents from recognizing their own limits. Instead of seeking support, they continue carrying unbearable pressure while pretending everything is under control to avoid criticism from others around them constantly. Public spaces often become emotionally exhausting for parents of twins because attention follows them everywhere. Grocery stores, restaurants, parks, and airports transform into environments where strangers freely comment on parenting choices. Some people admire the twins, while others offer unsolicited advice or criticism without understanding the family's reality. Parents hear comments about stroller choices, feeding routines, discipline, and even the emotional behavior of their children. Over time, these interactions create emotional fatigue because parents begin anticipating judgment before leaving home. Simple activities that should feel normal become mentally draining experiences. Many parents eventually isolate themselves socially because avoiding public scrutiny feels easier than constantly defending their decisions. This isolation can damage emotional well-being and increase feelings of loneliness during an already demanding season of life. Society often forgets that parents of twins are human beings trying to survive extraordinary circumstances, not entertainment for public observation. The constant attention may appear harmless from the outside, but repeated judgment slowly affects confidence, emotional resilience, and the ability to trust personal parenting instincts over time completely. Family members can sometimes create the deepest emotional pressure without realizing it. Grandparents, siblings, and relatives often believe they are helping when offering advice, but repeated criticism can slowly undermine parental confidence. Older generations may insist that certain parenting methods are wrong simply because they differ from traditions of the past. Relatives sometimes compare parenting styles between family members, creating unnecessary competition and emotional tension. Parents of twins already experience enormous stress, and feeling constantly questioned by loved ones makes that burden even heavier. Many parents struggle establishing boundaries because they fear appearing disrespectful or ungrateful. As a result, they remain silent while absorbing emotional pressure that damages their mental well-being. The desire to please family members often conflicts with the need to protect personal peace and confidence. Learning to separate helpful support from harmful judgment becomes essential for emotional survival. Parents must eventually understand that even loved ones can unintentionally create toxic pressure when their opinions are valued more than the instincts and emotional needs of the parents themselves each day. The turning point for many parents happens when they realize outside opinions never truly stop. No matter what choices they make, someone will always disagree. Some people criticize strict routines, while others criticize flexibility. Some believe twins should always be treated equally, while others encourage individuality above everything else. Trying to satisfy everyone becomes emotionally impossible. Parents eventually discover that peace only begins when they stop seeking universal approval. This realization changes everything because it allows them to focus on what actually matters: the emotional health and happiness of their own family. Confidence grows when parents stop measuring their worth through public validation. They begin understanding that nobody else fully experiences their sleepless nights, emotional struggles, financial stress, or daily sacrifices. Therefore, nobody else should hold the power to define whether they are succeeding. Letting go of constant approval seeking does not mean becoming careless or ignoring helpful guidance. It means recognizing that parenting twins is deeply personal, and that outside judgment often reflects other people's fears, insecurities, or unrealistic expectations more than reality itself. Honestly, ignoring social pressure does not happen overnight because parents are naturally affected by criticism and judgment. However, emotional freedom begins with small changes in perspective. Many parents start protecting their peace by limiting exposure to toxic social media comparisons and refusing to engage with unnecessary criticism. Others learn to establish healthy boundaries with relatives and strangers by politely ending conversations that create emotional stress. Some parents find strength through supportive communities where honesty replaces unrealistic perfection. These spaces remind them they are not alone in their exhaustion, fears, and emotional struggles. Confidence slowly grows when parents stop apologizing for surviving difficult days. They begin celebrating small victories rather than obsessing over impossible standards. Emotional resilience develops when parents trust their instincts more than public opinion. Raising twins will always involve challenges, but carrying society's expectations makes those challenges infinitely heavier. Learning to emotionally disconnect from judgment creates room for peace, authenticity, and self-compassion. Parents finally understand that protecting their mental health is not selfish but necessary for creating a stable and loving environment for their children every day. Parents who learn to ignore constant judgment often discover something surprising about themselves. Beneath the exhaustion and insecurity exists incredible strength that only difficult experiences can reveal. Raising twins forces people to adapt, grow, and survive under pressure few truly understand. Over time, many parents become emotionally stronger precisely because they stop depending on outside approval for validation. They realize their family does not need to look perfect to be healthy and loving. Some days will feel chaotic, emotional, and overwhelming, and that reality does not mean failure. In fact, accepting imperfection often creates deeper emotional connection within the family itself. Children benefit far more from emotionally present parents than from parents obsessively chasing impossible perfection. When parents release themselves from social pressure, they create space for genuine joy, laughter, and emotional authenticity. The household atmosphere changes because energy once spent worrying about judgment becomes invested in meaningful connection. The family begins living according to its own needs and values, rather than performing for the expectations of an outside world that never fully understands their reality anyway. The truth about parenting twins is that nobody is ever completely prepared for the emotional complexity involved. Every family experiences unique struggles, victories, fears, and moments of growth that outsiders may never see. Society often creates unrealistic narratives about what parenting should look like, but real life rarely follows those perfect expectations. Parents of twins carry enormous emotional responsibilities while trying to preserve their identities, relationships, and mental health at the same time. The outside world may continue offering opinions forever, but those voices lose power when parents stop allowing them to shape their self-worth. What truly matters is not appearing perfect in public but creating a safe, loving, emotionally healthy home for the children growing inside that environment. The strongest parents are not the ones who never struggle or never feel overwhelmed. They are the ones who continue showing love despite exhaustion, fear, and criticism. Ignoring social pressure becomes an act of emotional courage because it allows parents to finally trust themselves and embrace their imperfect but deeply meaningful journey completely. Parents of twins live a reality most people admire from a distance but rarely understand deeply. Behind every smile, every family photo, and every public moment exists a constant battle against exhaustion, judgment, and impossible expectations. The world will always have opinions, but those opinions should never become more powerful than a parent's own instincts and love. Perfection is not the goal. Presence, patience, resilience, and emotional connection matter far more than public approval ever will. The moment parents stop trying to satisfy every outside voice, they begin reclaiming peace inside their own homes and hearts. Raising twins is not about proving something to society. It is about building a family through love, sacrifice, growth, and survival one day at a time. Sometimes the bravest thing a parent can do is simply ignore the noise, trust themselves, and continue forward with confidence despite the judgment surrounding them every day.